Today is May 29th, 2021, and I'm here with World War II veteran Charlie Garner, and this is his story.
No D.
Oh, Garner.
Garner.
Okay. Now, can you start with training? Where did you start training at?
Okay. We started our training first by going first to Indianapolis. We were at the base there. I can't remember the name of it now. But anyway, and from there, after our induction and everything, I got sent to Alabama, to Gadsden, Alabama, which was Camp Seibert, which was a mortar battalion company. We did our basic training there for the 13 weeks that you were in basic training, and whatever else you want beside that. The nice thing about it is that I come out of the college, and many of us in our company happened to be college students, and we'd all gone through physical training and everything before we got there, so we were all in pretty good shape, and we just had a good basic training. Mm-hmm. And from there, I went to University of Alabama for taking some testing to find out. It was before the war. This was in April of the 13th is when I went in the service in 1943. And so it was before the war itself started, and went in for take testing for a Army special training program that they had for civil engineering. And after a series of tests, I got assigned to Carnegie Tech in Pittsburgh to go through civil engineering training. Mm-hmm. But then before I got that all finished, the war started heated up and they wanted us back, so I got back to Camp Seibert. Mm-hmm. And finished up whatever was to do down there. The only thing I missed was going to see Joe Louis fight, because there was having some, as they still have, problems with blacks. Mm-hmm. You know that. But from there, went to Pennsylvania to Camp Shenango, I think it was called, for physical checkup and everything, getting ready, and from there sent into New Jersey, mm-hmm. and I can't remember the name of the camp. We were there for 2 weeks, I think, about. And the nice thing about that, our particular group were really just nothing but a bunch of clowns that were going to be replacements for whoever went into D-Day. Mm-hmm. And but anyway, another group over there, they had quarantined because of smallpox or something, I don't know what. So I got to go in to the State Door Canteen in New York City, mm-hmm. 3 nights in a row. But from there, 1 year to the day, in 1944, on April the 13th, I sailed out of Hoboken for Europe, and we were on a ship, Norwegian, not Norwegian, New Zealand boat called the Rangatiki, and for 14 days. Got in Liverpool at night and loaded us on buses, so we didn't get to see anything. It took us to a place where we were supposed to be for. So we were there just a bunch of replacements. We knew that was what we were going to be, but Salisbury, England, and then it came on June the 6th, and kept hearing airplanes all night. And the next morning when we got up, we could stand and count almost 500 airplanes. It just loaded. The sky was. So you know what was happening in Europe, in France, and that some of them got as far as Germany, I presume.
Mm-hmm.
But then they were softening up the coast mostly. And so from then until D16, or D10, on the 16th of June, we loaded on the boat and I went in on Omaha Beach. And for the about the next 12, 13 days, most of the time I worked on the beach, or in one case, trying to dig out a 500-pound bomb that didn't go off, it buried, and they was going to try to get the thing and defuse it. But most of the time we worked on the base, or on the beach, sorting ammunition, and that took about 10 hours a day. So one incident, I was working across the conveyor from a black soldier, and I looked up and he was pointing and his mouth was going, but he wasn't saying anything. So I turned and looked, and here's this big pile of ammunition, and there's a curl of smoke coming up. And so when I looked back, he was no longer there, he was gone. So another fellow and I would sorted through and got down to the source of the smoke, never knowing, because with the big pile of ammunition, you didn't know what was going to happen. But it was a smoke bomb that they put in the water, and once it got in the water, it would smoke. And this had gotten a little wet, and so we just separated from the rest of the thing and let it go ahead and smoke. There was no fire or anything like that on it. So, but it made you stop and think a little bit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then on the 29th, I think in June it was, my outfit had been in. They didn't come in on D-Day like they were supposed to. They didn't come in until like the 26th or something like that. And they had a firing mission. They didn't realize that they were supposed to dig deep foxholes. They did made slit trenches, and they were at the base of a hill, and the Germans kind of decimated them a little bit, and but they fired. I don't know if you know. I'll get it here in a minute. White phosphorus.
Mm-hmm.
White phosphorus, and if white phosphorus hits air, it catches on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And when it catches on fire, it's just like well, you know when you blow up a balloon, you let loose of it, and it'll go wherever it wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this white phosphorus went into their embankments where they had for the Germans, and then when they came out to get the fire off of themselves, they dropped TNT, and so they took the hill just with a few shells. And so the mortar battalion, from then on, we were ready to go wherever they wanted us to go. But on the 29th, I got to be with my outfit. And I went everywhere. I got to drive a Jeep from the coast of France to Czechoslovakia with side trips and everything. This book has information on the mortar battalion.
What more battalion were you part of?
They, when I came back from the service, there was about 4 men from our little platoon, I guess you'd call it, and that we kept corresponding for years. In 65 years, I had corresponded with a fellow in Wisconsin. And after I married Priscilla and we were here, I said, you know, we've been trading cards for years at Christmas, and I haven't seen him since we left way back in 1945 when we got back out. And I said, I want to see him. And so we went up. He had a hardback book with the whole company or battalion, and not necessarily just our company. So I made copies and everything, and then tried of just what had to do with our company mainly. But I wanted to show you, if I can find it here. For goodness sake, it can't leave. Oh, there's 2 or 3 pages here having to do with, and I don't know if I don't know if you can get it on the camera as such.
If you mind if I take a picture of it
No.
afterwards?
Afterwards, yeah.
Yeah.
But see, they came in through a little different route than what I did. But then they came in, and we went into Belgium, Luxembourg, and down to the coast of France, the Brest Peninsula. We worked there, and then so. Let's see. Where do you want to go from there? Well,
Do you like?
after I got with the outfit, then we just wherever they wanted us, we would go. We were attached to the 1st Army, 2nd Army, 3rd Army. We would, a lot of the times we were attached just to some corps that needed us. We were just attached to wherever they wanted us to be. So.
What was your company?
86th Chemical Mortar Battalion.
What's that?
86th.
86.
I had this made when I went on my trip to Washington, D.C., so that everybody would know what I belonged to. And that's the mortar. It's a 4.2 mortar, 4.2 inches in diameter, and TNT dynamite it'd hold about 28 pounds, and it was kind of forceful. Yeah, it had a rifle barrel, therefore any shells that went in came out silent because they were whirling. And once it had gone 15 feet, it was activated, so you had to have a clear path. You couldn't shoot out of the woods without a clear path. And it would shoot up to 5 miles, pretty accurate. So.
Where were you after D-Day?
Okay, from the D-Day, we worked our way down towards Brest Peninsula, which was, it was kind of cut off. So the Germans were in the town of Brest, and most of the others had headed on east, getting out of our way to sort of amount to. And so we spent time there, basically just shooting into the city to kind of keep people, the Germans, in the city, and then they were dropping bombs on them. So, and then from Brest Peninsula, we just went wherever we needed until they come up in. Well, we were in Belgium there, and during the time of the before the Battle of Bulge, of course. I don't know if I had. I'd let you see some of that pretty soon, maybe. But anyway, I just had it out here a minute ago. Where did I put it? Yeah, we'll get to it. So, here I am. These you can't read very good, but these are my copies that I made while I was there of our day by day where we went.
I can't read
Well,
much of it.
You're in the same problem maybe a lot of others are. I have a friend that had been in World War II, and he had kept a diary. And his son got the diary when his dad died. And he has a grandson now that's in the Marines. And he said, "Son, I've got to show you something your grandpa did." And he handed it to him. He said, "I think you should read it." And he says, "Dad, I can't read it." He said, I never learned to read cursive.
Yeah, cursive is pretty hard to read.
Well, let's face it, I'm left-handed, and I do things in a hurry anyway. Well, as you can see that I did this as because we were in the Murraken forest, and we were just about every place that we were needed.
What was the Murraken forest like?
At one time when we were there, to start with, in the area, this was in the summertime, and it was pretty good, but it was rain. And when you got that deep on the roads, you didn't get out and walk around and everything. But we spent our time during that tour for about 2 weeks. You don't change clothes. There's no place to go until you get a chance to go back for maybe 3 days for a break, which is not often. And we had, our outfit was in combat, at least at the front line, and not always we were firing, but we were always ready for about 314 days, not in a row, but so we were there when we were needed.
When you were at Brest, did you help the 29th Infantry Division?
I know not the 29th. Our first infantry and second infantry is before and after the Battle of the Bulge. We worked supported them, and they were tickled to death to have us, because they just had that little 60 mortar
Mm-hmm.
and the 90 mortar millimeter, and they're not big.
Mm.
And they're at the front line. Somebody's shooting at them with a rifle, and the Germans had small mortars too, just shooting them back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So we were out behind a house or behind a hill, and nobody. They didn't have the equipment to match us, so we felt fortunate anyway. So
What was the Battle of the Bulge like when you got there?
on December the 16th in 1945, 44,
44.
we started out, got set up, dug a foxhole, got set up, and Lieutenant Chem said, we're moving, so we moved up. And so that day I dug 5 foxholes. And we got up and got into position on that evening someplace.
Mm-hmm.
The next morning we got up and with our company, they had eight mortars. We made 2 go to the south, 2 to the west, 2 to the north, and 2 to the east.
Mm-hmm.
We said, well, does that mean what we think it means? And he said, yeah. So we were surrounded.
Mm.
We weren't too many miles away from Bastogne, which had been a difficult place.
Mm-hmm.
And so that day we loaded up everything and took off and went for a small town. And we got into this small town called Rockrath.
Mm-hmm.
And we set up and did our firing that we needed to do and everything. And everything seemed to be real quiet. And the group of us just kind of, we were behind a house, but we had our
Mm-hmm.
stuff on the inside of the house down in the basement. The Germans and the Belgians and others, they had concrete floors above their basements.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for protection as much as anything else, I guess. But when we come out, we looked out and down about a block away, here was a nice big tank sitting there, and we said, oh boy, we're in good shape. Well, it turned sideways, and there was a big swastika on the side of it. And in the process, he turned around and pointed in our direction with it. We took off and went to the basement. Now, because the only thing we do is either go out and try to bring our mortars so we don't shoot in real close, which is difficult to do that close. And but while we were down in the basement, this lieutenant come in, and he had a pocket comb, and he said, in case we lose. And well, it kind of shook up everybody. I mean, they loosened up everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were there for 3 days.
How cold was it?
It was kind of cold, but not too bad right then. It got colder those as we went on, because after we got out and went back into Belgium to a little town called Dohane, and we got a chance to warm up. But we did get to experience the buzz bomb that Hitler took great pride in. Because when we left that night, and we were going, well, we had chains on the tires on our Jeeps, and so you couldn't have lights, but you could hear the chains rattle, and so you knew how fast you were going. And all of a sudden we heard this, and that's the buzz bomb made that noise. And when it stopped doing that, then it ran out of fuel. And if it ran out of fuel, it come down. And we didn't know where it was coming down, so we bailed out of the Jeeps and into the ditch and covered our heads up as best we could. And it landed about 2 fields away from us.
Mm-hmm.
We got a little mud on us, but that was all right. It didn't land on us anyway.
Did the sound of the buzz bomb scare you?
Well, it was loud.
Yeah, a lot of people were scared of that noise once they heard it.
Well, yeah, and they had another thing. They had something called a screaming Mimi.
Oh, the Nibblewurfers.
You heard of that?
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, and that really.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a noise with them. Because it's just like putting something in a barrel, and I don't know what it was doing. But,
yeah. So where were you after the Bulge?
In the Battle of Bulge, we were at Rockraft.
Well, after.
After that, we started. By that time, we had a couple of days back, or 3, and then we went back, and we went back to this little town of Rockraft, and there wasn't a single building standing. It was completely demolished, and I went down into the basement of the place we'd been in, and because I'd left my tan keen cup there, and it was laying on the floor. I picked it up, and in due time I got my knife and I inscribed everything I could inscribe on it and everything. And also I'd been collecting some 1936 Olympics with Jesse Owens.
Yeah.
And I had a nice stack. And so shortly after that, anyway, I had to go back for ammunition. And we were sitting, I can only, I don't know the directions there, but here's a dam, just here, and we were on this side of the dam. And so I had to go out across the dam and go get ammunition. When I came back, I looked up and here's a German Messerschmitt coming towards the dam, and I presumed what he was interested in dropping the bomb on that, because if it dropped that under, that dam would let the water separate the armies, our armies. And so I just sat there and waited, and here come a P-51 and 2 little burps with his machine guns, and he cut the wing off of the poor Messerschmitt, and he went into the water. So, but anyway, we were at that dam with backing up infantry 1 and 2. I don't know. I can't remember if that was with the 1st Army or the 9th Army or what. But your dad couldn't be okay.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Okay, so. But from then on, it was just a matter of following. The tank man.
Do you have a story about the Remagen, like when you first saw it?
Okay, the Murraken Bridge.
Yeah, the Remagen.
We were across. We were on the Rhine River. Just, I guess you'd call it on the west side of the Rhine River. I can't. Direction didn't mean anything to me there. Of course, she didn't have a compass anyway, and we were in a little factory where they had been making pop, orange juice and stuff like that. But our job was to burn a little town on the other side of the Rhine River, a block or 2 a day, just to keep the Germans out with firing white phosphorus. And then it came time for us, we were going to be moving, and so we went up to the Murraken Bridge, and sitting there waiting to go across, and that's when the Murraken Bridge gave way from all the weight. They were sending too much weight across at one time, and so we had to go back into the top factory and wait until they had a bridge built across the pontoon bridge, and we got to go across. And from then on, it was sailing to wherever.
When did you get into Czechoslovakia?
The Czechoslovakia was after the war. So we got in, got to go through. Now I can't remember. We wound up in a little town called Bishatonitz, but then that's hard to spell. And until we were ready to head back to the States, and then eventually we were supposed to go to Japan. And so I got home on, we got back into La Havre and got on the ship, and 5 days later we were back in New York. And on July the 13th, I got to see my wife again. I haven't seen her for quite a while. And so I had 30 days at home. I got back down to Camp Atterbury on the 13th of July. No, August. And got down there, and we had ended as late as we could because we thought the war was maybe going to end. Well, on the 14th, my buddy and I from South Bend, he was from South Bend, he just ordered a pitcher of beer. And 6 o'clock, a man come, lieutenant or captain came in and said, "You're here to stay here. If you had been home, you'd stay home for 30 days. The war's over." So we knew we didn't have to go to Japan, and that's always right. So I finished up my last few days in a couple of weeks or months or whatever it was down at Camp Campbell in Kentucky, Hopkinsville.
Do you have any other stories while you were in the service from World War II, or?
Well, you can't see this very good, but in France, sat on the curb side of the road, and a little girl, 6 years old, I'd point at my nose and I'd write it down and say what it is in English, and she'd do it in French, and so yeah, that was my French lesson.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And that was pretty good.
Where were you when Pearl Harbor happened?
I was in college in Indianapolis. The old man when he was a kid.
How did you feel about the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor?
Oh, well, just like everybody else. The only thing that disappoints me about the whole thing, I don't know if you saw it when you were at the World War II monument or not, when President Roosevelt made his statement, but at the end he made some comment about "In God We Trust" or something, and that's left off of his statement. And that still bothers me.
I didn't notice that.
Well, I guess because he figured God was going to be on our side, I guess. That's the way, and he interpreted it that way. So, but anyway, but when we were in the Battle of the Bulge, there in this town, we were getting ready to leave that night, and we had to wait until they took out a tank that was firing down the road that we were going to be going out. I went out to get my Jeep ready and get it in position. And we were up above the road because a lot of the places there were hedgerows that were real up. And here some soldier was going down that road, and there was a poor cow in front of him. And I had to stand there and laugh. He was hitting that poor cow on the hind end with his rifle, but to tell him to get out of the way, he had the whole road to go. But that's it just seemed he didn't think of that. And one other time, we went into a field, got ready to set up, and we were digging foxholes and they had our mortars in position so we could use. But started digging foxholes, and I looked up and out across the way, that's a German half-track. And so swing his gun toward us, and I don't know what size of gun he had. It was an artillery piece anyway. And I saw it go off. So I just hollered, hit the dirt, and everybody did, except one poor guy. But we were up here in this field, and it's just, I don't know if you're a farm boy or not, but then we're just, from this field to this field, it was up about this much, and so just like and it landed in front of that, and most of the blast went into he got a couple pieces of shrapnel on his chest. Nothing, he got it taken care of pretty quick.
Did you ever get hurt?
No. I jokingly always said that there wasn't a German alive shoot fast enough to catch me above the ground. So
that's fun.
But that's the way it was anyway. There were so many things that happened. I don't know if I should even tell you this, but because I haven't told anybody. When we on the 17th of December, when we went towards this town of Rockrath, we were driving along, and there was a wooded area here and a wooded area here and an open field in between, and like maybe 500 feet or 1,000, I don't know how many feet that. But on that side, there was the German soldiers just scattered on the ground. On this side, with the blue uniforms, kind of a bluish uniform, and a khaki, and they just had a gunfight. And I don't know how many was there dead. Nobody in the Jeep said a word. I don't know if anybody else even saw it, but that was kind of a hit.
Yeah. When you were in the Bulge, were you close to Malmedy?
We were close.
What did you think of the massacre that happened there?
Oh, well, when you finally hear the stories, the one guy in particular that fainted, or he decided to show that he was dead, and they didn't, for some reason or other, didn't come back and shoot him again. And then he got to tell some of the stories, and you can't believe that people would do that.
Yeah.
That mean that.
Oh, All right, I guess that's the end of the interview. I really appreciate you doing this for me, and thank you.
Okay.